Hi everybody. Today I have a fun little video where I'm going to talk a little bit about yo-yos and or Suffolk Puffs. It depends where you live, depending what you call them. And a variation on the traditional Suffolk Puff yo-yo. Basically, they're little, you take a circle of fabric. I've got an illustration here. You fold over the raw edge and do a running stitch around the raw edge all the way around. When you have it finished, you pull the running stitch tight and the circle of fabric folds into the center, and you get a yo-yo that looks like this or like these. And you can use them, traditionally they would take yo-yos, stitch the sides together, and when they had a whole bunch sewn together, it became a cover for a bed, a decorative cover. But of course there's holes in between, but that's what traditionally they were used for. But more recently we use them as an embellishment for different projects. On this one here, my intention is to stitch this button to the center and finish it off that way. If I chose a different button, it could make this a flower. I've done that in a couple of my quilts, used yo-yos for flowers. And on this one, I've also used it as flowers, but in the center I put turkey work so that it's a bit of a fluff sticking up. But these aren't the actual yo-yos I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about a variation called a 4-patch yo-yo, and that's where I have taken 4 squares of fabric and I've sewn them together and made a circle and then made a yo-yo out of them with the 4 fabrics, so that it just adds a different element to it. I think it's quite charming. With this one, I've made it for my bits and bobs. I put 2 same fabrics but different colors together into a 4-patch, and then I added drizzle stitches in the middle with beads on top, and I even added a piece of lace around the edge just for fun. It's interesting. I haven't made anything with these yet, but I'm going to show you how to make it today. So to start, I do have a tutorial online, and with that tutorial I have a free template, but basically it's a cardboard, it's a circle that you're going to make out of cardboard. And the formula is, if you want a 2-inch yo-yo, finished yo-yo, start your circle at about 4 inches. So you start with about a double the size. Because my tutorial uses 2.5-inch squares, that's what I'm using today. But you can make it out of any size circle that you like. So cut yourself 4 squares of fabric, 2.5 inches big, and sew them together into pairs, and then sew the pairs together till you get a 4-patch. I'm going to do that on my machine. I can't do that on the camera. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm back. I have my 4-patch sewn together. I press the seams open, and I have my cardboard template cut out. So with my sandpaper board that I've talked about in other videos, I'm going to lay the fabric right side down, and on the back I'm going to trace the circle. If you're not confident in judging seam allowance by eye, you can make your circle a little bit smaller and then use what you're drawing as your guide. But since I'm pretty good at that, I'm just going to cut this out That's the nice thing about this. There really is no, unless you want all your yo-yos to be exactly the same, there's so much flexibility in how you create these. Okay. No, that didn't go very dark. The sandpaper board, which is just a sheet of fine sandpaper taped to a cardboard, is a great way to draw on fabric where the fabric doesn't slip around at all. Lets you cut exactly where you, it lets you draw a finer, detailed shape. Okay. Now I'm gonna cut the circle out so that I actually have a circle. Okay. And even that doesn't have to be exactly perfect because it's all going to get wrinkled and gathered. Get yourself a thread. I like to match my patch, and I do put a knot in, and then you just start by folding over the edge towards the back side. I come up underneath with my knot, and you start, I like to do a consistent seam allowance. Don't go too big. I like to do about 1/8 of an inch, but you could do 1/4 inch as well. And you're basically going to go around the patch, folding it over and doing an even, try to get an even running stitch. Stitches don't have to be super small or anything, but even is good because that way your gather is gathering later, because that's what this thread running stitch is going to do. Yeah, if you keep it even, then your gathers are even. Because this has got the fabric, extra fabrics with the seams, that part is a little bit trickier. But basically, this is just the same as any yo-yo. This is how you make a yo-yo or Suffolk Puff. This happens to be a 4-patch version. Yes. And you do the folding over of the seam so that you don't have raw edges sticking out when you have your finished circle. Actually, now that I have a few of these sitting here in front of me to show you, when they would stitch them together to make a cover for a bed, they just butt them up beside each other and take a few stitches together and then open them up again, and do that for the next one and the next one, and just keep adding to it if you're interested in making a whole bunch to make into a coverlet yourself. And some people take that yo-yo cover and then put a big sheet of fabric behind it and then stitch that all down, just so that it's got a backing to it. There's different ways you could do it. I'm sure if you look online for a yo-yo or a Suffolk Puff quilt, you will find pictures. I don't think many people these days are making them, though. I think it's more used as embellishments these days. I know I have a few other ideas I'm hoping to try out to add to my Bits and Bobs quilt with these. This one is in the colors of my Bits and Bobs, if you noticed. So I'll use it on that quilt eventually. I figured there was no point in making one if I didn't have a good use for it. Did I mention that I will put the link to the tutorial in the description? I think I did, but in case I didn't, there, I said it now. While I'm not talking about this, and just so there isn't silence, if there's any quilty question, something you'd like to see, something I've made that you've seen that you'd like to see me actually make on a video, if I can. I can't do everything on video. I don't have all the equipment, and for stitching fine details, I need to see further up close, and that doesn't allow me to do that in front of the camera, unfortunately. I need to get a camera that sits on my forehead, if there is such a thing. All right. So, yeah, in the comments, email me. I'm happy to take your suggestions. Sometimes I've made a video thinking, oh, they're not going to care about this, and you've actually really liked it. And then other times I've thought, oh, they're going to think this is the bomb, and not as much views. So I don't always know. And I do appreciate all of you who have been watching regularly some of my stuff. Like, I thank you. If you've subscribed, thank you. If you've commented, I love it. All right, I'm down to around the other side. I'm going to come out really close to where my knot is. And I'm not cutting the thread off. I can take my needle out though. So there you see, I've got a circle. I've got the, I think so. You can see the running stitch. Okay. So next, I like to keep my thumb in the middle and I just start pulling. Don't pull too hard. You don't want your thread to break because then you're just going to have to stitch all over again. And like gathering, if you've gathered in sewing, just move it around. So that it's going to be even all the way around. It's so you don't have bigger gathered areas someplace and not others. You want it pretty even. You just keep pulling until it's gathered as much as it can. And then you finesse it until you're liking how it looks. You've got it pulled as much as you can, and I unthreaded my needle, but I'm going to need my needle back. Once you have it as tight a gather and you're happy with it, you're best to just take a couple of tack stitches right there at the end and just secure it so that it doesn't ungather. And what I also like to do, as I've done here, is I like to go to the back from the middle with the thread. I don't cut that off, and the reason I don't cut that off is I get to use it later if I stitch it on something. Then I use the same thread and stitch around the edge. Okay, there. And you just finesse it until you're happy with it, and then use it as you wish. It makes a cute brooch, an embellishment on a bag. A cluster of them can be like flowers. There. Put a little button in the middle or a bead. Leave it as is. Isn't that cute? There. I hope you like it. I hope you give it a try, and thanks for watching.